Hi, everyone, and welcome to our live streaming broadcast and a series of interviews that the Urantia Book Fellowship is doing every month. At the beginning of the month, you can tune in and watch us on Facebook as we're live streaming. And today we're featuring Alice Wood and Pato Banton. Pato hasn't shown up yet, but we expect him to show up maybe anytime, maybe halfway through the show. You just never know. But we're talking about Second Miler funds, and that's a grant program from the Urantia Book Fellowship. And both Pato and Alice have been awarded a Second Miler fund to do wonderful, worthwhile projects. And Alice's project is Urantia Life Lessons, and it's something that she's put a lot of time and energy into, and it really shows, Alice. So I want to feature and give you plenty of time to feature this project. It's such a worthwhile project, and you're doing it so beautifully. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're a second generation Urantia book reader. Your mom and dad are Robert and Vicki Arkins, and wonderful readers, and you're married to an amazing Urantian. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Alice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really glad to be talking with you today and to be sharing this project with everyone. I've really had Urantia teachings kind of a part of every single part of my life, from, the way that we would say thank yous before dinner to the family vacations that we would take, because our family vacations, the big ones at least, were always going to a Urantia conference somewhere on the continent. And so that's just been a really fortunate way for me to grow up. And not just that the Urantia book was in our house, but also that my parents really embodied the teachings themselves. And so I was able to learn, I'd say as a child, not so much from just the words that were said, but in how my parents treated us and the kind of relationship that we had. And so then, now I've grown up. I'm trying to do my best and do the same thing with my two kids, who are 8 and 10. And, it's a really wonderful thing when my family reads the Urantia book. My husband's family reads the Urantia book. We go to Urantia conferences now, and sometimes they're like family reunions. And so my husband and I just love answering questions that my kids have about how the Urantia book relates to science, or how we better bring in the teachings into our lives. Golly, what else can I tell you? Oh, and so that's really what I try to do with my YouTube channel, Urantia Life Lessons, is I try to capture those core teachings that kids pick up on if they're raised with the book. Those core teachings that you can get from reading it, but you can also get just from living within it. So that's what I focus on in that channel.
That's great. I raised my children with the Urantia book. And my daughter, my oldest, was a year old when I found it. And I was ever so grateful to have found it and to have found the sublime example of parenting, especially in Jesus. But, obviously the ultimate parent of all would be the first source and center, our Father, at the center of creation, and the nuclear family of all creation. And that's the ultimate, parenting example. And it goes out throughout the whole universe of universes. But I've been so thankful to know in my life that my daughter never has had, and neither one of my daughters or my son have ever had any concept of God except the loving, generous, benevolent, wonderful God we know from the Urantia book. Mm-hmm. And so that's the beauty of being a second generation reader. I think you didn't have to kind of sift through that, some people even rejected God because the teachings about him were so negative and so harsh. You never had to go through that. So that's good. Knowing your parents as well as I do, I can see how growing up in their household would have been a delight. Very, very well ordered and structured and, meaningful, very meaningful. So,
And
bravo.
now being a parent myself, there's so much that you learn from it that coincides with what the Urantia book teaches. Things like teaching in the positive, not in the negative, as in telling people what they will do instead of what they shouldn't do.
Right.
And really having faith then that it works.
Right.
Because, if you're going to take on any kind of philosophy for parenting, you've really got to believe that it works. And then to actually see that it does work as the kids get older is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, if only we had more faith in those methodologies and because Jesus really embodied those teachings. He was the perfect example for us. And if only humanity had more faith to trust that, if we just use love, it is the greatest power in the universe. And, someday I think we'll figure that out. We may be a ways away from it. But what led you to and I have to give a shout out to your wonderful husband, Chris, because obviously you're so supported in doing this project, which makes all the difference. And I know a lot of people out there are called to do great spiritual work, but if they don't have a supportive partner, it's that much more difficult. So God bless Chris and Chris's family. What a dynamic family. You guys could have your own Urantia conference. You don't even need to invite anybody. It's so cute. I loved seeing you at the scientific symposium and all the kids. It was like a family reunion for you all. And I thought that was so much fun just to see all the Wood brothers and, so that's great. But what inspired you to do, or, to pick up Urantia life lessons, and what was the goal? What was the goal you had in mind? Was it specifically for Urantians, or do you hope that it'll reach a broader audience as well?
So to answer the first question, what inspired me to do it, I always give a shout out to someone from my study group who really stated multiple times that he thought I should do a YouTube channel. Wow. And of course, the first time he said it, I balked. And the second time he said it, I balked. And then eventually he said it enough that I finally did it. And I think that's an important thing to point out because it shows the influence that people can have on each other, because it absolutely was not something that I would have done without someone not pressuring, but just believing in. It shows the value of believing in people and recognizing their talents.
So true.
And so the audience that I go for and what my real purpose is, I always gear every single video to people who know what the Urantia, who have heard the word Urantia, who are curious and want to know more, but they aren't necessarily picking up the book. Maybe they will one day, and maybe they won't at all. And I think that for me, there are some things that I learn about, especially with other religions, because I've got limited time. So if I'm curious about a religion just because I want to know what they're thinking about, I don't necessarily have the time to pick up their text and read it. But I might sit down and watch a little 10-minute video about it. And in that way, I think that it's important to get the teachings out there in so many various ways. A lot of people talk about getting Urantia teachings out there without saying the word Urantia, which is important because not everyone wants to hear the word Urantia. And what I aim for is saying the word Urantia, maybe some other Urantia specific terms if they're a little more, if they kind of fit naturally within the context. But it's just kind of helping people find out what the teachings are like, find out what the essence of the teachings are, and creating a positive association between those teachings and the word Urantia, so that when they come across the Urantia book again in the future, they might say, oh, Urantia, I've heard of that. That seemed normal, or that seemed positive. So that's what I aim for.
I love that because, Mo Siegel and I were doing Urantia outreach since the 80s. And he created a foundation to do nothing but that, and to support people who did Urantia outreach in various forms, and to provide them with materials that they might hand to somebody for the very reasons that you said, which makes so much sense to me. It's so logical, and it's a niche market for sure, but it can spill over too, and it can have a great exponential effect if you are able to show somebody something that's really relevant to them. And that's what Mo and I decided at one point, that we wanted our website and everything we did around that site, truthbook.com, to be relevant, to show that the Urantia book is not just some fringe, new age, occult, whatever label people want to put on it to marginalize it and set it aside and say it doesn't matter to me, it's not of interest to me, or it's not relevant. We wanted to show people that it is relevant, it's deeply relevant. And so in that respect, I can totally see why you would do that. And I'm glad your friend and study group upheld you and kept mentioning it, because I woke up this morning thinking many great human impulses die because there's nobody there to hear them. Mm-hmm. And that is a sad thing. It was kind of like I woke up thinking, gee, that's sad. That shouldn't happen. If somebody has something to say, they should be able to say that. And and also I wanted to point out that my another friend, Mary Eben Livingston, wrote the Urantia book Basics just for that same purpose. And she wrote that in the early 90s. But for people like her husband, Tom, who may never read the Urantia book, but may like to pick up a book and just get to know what the basics of it, what are the basic teachings from it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, because there's a lot of people who won't read that whole tome. Mm-hmm. We just know that by now, right? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean they can't benefit from its amazing teachings. So
yeah, and the teachings are so simple. They're so simple that children can pick up on them without having to give them any formal education. Without giving them any formal education. The Urantia book doesn't say that that relationship with God is only for the highly intelligent. It's for everybody. That's what it is. That's what the essence of Urantia teachings are, is just have a relationship with God. That's the core basic message.
Right. And how hard can that be, right? I mean, I know you probably have stories with your children in ways that are exemplary of what you just said, that they do get the teachings. I know my children always did get it. And it wasn't about me making it hard for them to get. But, you have to give it some thought too, and just to help them understand the basic concepts. They can be complicated if you want them to be, but they don't have to be. And I think that's why I was able to read the book, because for no doubt there's a lot of things in that book that go over your head, but there's a lot of things that go right in your heart. And every time you read it, those things get to be more and more. There's more stuff goes right in your heart and less that goes over your head. So that's why I think we read it for so many years. Right? It keeps feeding us.
Yeah. And so on my channel, I'm always thinking about what kind of videos would people in this audience want to watch. Golly, I think I've got like 17 or 18 videos at this point. And they're all pretty short. I try to keep them between like 3 and 5 minutes, because I think that's how a lot of YouTube is people just want short messages. And especially if it's someone who has only heard of the Urantia book and doesn't know much about it, I kind of think to myself, how much time are they willing to commit? And in those first moments, they're only probably willing to commit a few minutes. But
Right.
then if they like that, maybe they'll commit a few more minutes, and then a few more minutes after that. And so I'm always, from the length of the videos to the words that I choose, I'm always thinking about what the audiences want. Oh, the quotes that I choose. And I try to keep the quotes just the easier to digest quotes,
Right.
kind of short, kind of simple, just one quote typically, and then I put all the rest into my own words because, like the Urantia book says, people will sort of soak in words from people better than they do just revealed religion.
Right.
When the revealed religion is passing through me, it's more easily becoming a part of evolved religion.
Right. I think the UB says that's the artistic triumph of truth, right? And your truth being lived out in the lives of your children, and that's the beauty of it. We get to interpret it for each other and what it means to us and what it's done for us, and that's such a joyful thing. And that's why I was so glad when I saw you were doing this project. I just thought, man, this is so great. And I'm going to go and watch all of your videos because, and just showing that page, I love that we had that page up because it really shows somebody could say, oh, well, that's interesting. We'll click on that. Well, let's go to the next one, and that's really how YouTube works, right? That's how YouTube works. It plays on that. They're not long, they're short, but it keeps you occupied and you can keep going with it for a good long while from one video to the next. I love that. I'm struck by Gilead. That's very timely.
Oh, yeah, golly. Yeah. Well, that's in a reference to, I think the book, The Gilead is what it was called.
Okay. Yeah, because that's in The Handmaid's Tale, and it's
it's not a reference to The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, good. But it's a good buzzword. If people are searching Gilead, they'll maybe find out what it really means. And it's important though to be in that that vein of what's current and talking about what's current. And so, what has been your best experience so far with this project?
With the so with Urantia Life Lessons, I kind of have two projects that I'm thinking about right now. One is just Urantia Life Lessons in general, and the other is more specifically the prayer series, which is kind of what I have up and coming right now, which is going to be housed on my channel, but it's a different format from what I normally do, and that's really what I was aiming toward when I applied for the Second Miler grant.
Okay.
And what I was given the grant for was to upgrade my audio and video equipment, because you asked about good experiences, but I can share some really awful experiences.
Well, if you're learning lessons and you learned a lot and you gained a lot from them, then that is a good experience, I guess, overall, right?
Yeah, you'll see as you're watching the videos that I jumped into this with no training or experience. I am 100% self-taught, and I 100% have room to grow. So what I was working with at the time was a series of sort of hand-me-down equipment. At one point, I filmed an entire video, and then I realized that there was like a horrible white noise in the background from the mic that I was using. So I had to scrap that mic. Another time I was using a teleprompter at one point. I stopped that. I now memorized the scripts.
Oh, good.
It just creates a better result. If I'm reading from the teleprompter, it seems like it's just more stiff. But if it's memorized, then it's like it's coming from a different part of the brain, and it's a much more animated part of the brain. So that's what I'm doing now. I decided that if I'm taking in this grant money, then I really want to up my game in other ways as well. And so one of the things that I started doing was to memorize instead of read. But that teleprompter was really heavy, and it was too heavy for the tripod, and so it would kind of tilt. And so I had to balance the weight with a water bottle kind of dangling off of the other end.
I was going to say you weren't just kind of going down.
I just angle myself a different way.
Yeah, I totally get that. And having been a thespian in another life when I was a teenager, very much involved. If I had my dream come true, I would have gone full bore into that because it was my first love and my great passion. And I'm a very creative person. How I ended up being a bookkeeper, an accountant, I don't know, or even an administrator. I don't know how that happened. Over time, it happened. I know that, but I would have loved to have gone into acting. And memorizing a script is amazing because after a while, when you know it well, the words become your words. Well, they already are because you wrote the script, which is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can embellish more and improvise more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something, you're right, there's something more natural and beautiful about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you, of course, we all see people reading from teleprompters all the time on television.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be pretty good at it, but you can tell. You can always tell.
Yeah. So then you asked about positive experiences, and I've had a number of those as well. Lately, I've really been trying to make the things that I do more efficient because I have a lot of projects that I balance, and I can do more projects if I make my time efficient. So one thing that I did is I moved from my living room up to this space back here, which I kind of transformed into a little studio. So I can just keep all my stuff there and I don't need to move it all downstairs, which is just a hassle.
Right.
And so when everything just kind of falls together through the filming process, that's a really good experience. It takes a lot of work to create a single video, probably from start to finish. I think I put in at least 15 hours for a video.
Wow.
And that's probably not including the time trying to memorize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so one fun thing that we've been doing lately with my two kids is that they've wanted to help me with the filming, which is great fun for me, not because they're helpful, but because it just gets them around the words more. You know, it's from growing up, I know that we did some formal reading from the Urantia book, which probably made me a very skilled out loud reader. But I think that what I gained most from was just overhearing conversations. So I'd hear my parents talk to each other. I'd hear them talk to other people. And it was just sort of those things where they were sitting in a room and I was in a different room and I was just sort of listening in. And that's where I gained a lot from. And so I think of this as one of those opportunities where my kids just happen to be present. They're choosing to be present. And they're paying attention for however long.
Wow. You know, there you go. There's a life lesson right there for a lot of Urantia book readers. And that is we often feel like children can't understand or, wouldn't understand what we're saying about the Urantia book, but they can and they do. And I think there's a great spiritual hunger in children. I myself had that as a child. And so, it's interesting that you were in study group or nearby listening in. I think that's amazing. And with my three children, one of them has read the entire book. One of them is reading it, and the other one may or may not. That's my oldest, my daughter, Jean. But she is a believer. And, I think that there will be lots of believers someday, just like there's lots of believers in Christianity. They may not all read the whole Bible or study it or become, scholars of it,
Mhm.
but they believe it. And
Mhm.
it's because of their interaction with people like you or me, and because their family members do. And I hear all the time, I hear people say, oh, yeah, because I've done a lot of outreach and I meet a lot of people come up to me at the booth over the years and say, oh, yeah, I knew a guy who read this book. He was a really nice guy.
Mhm.
And I'm always proud to hear that, because then that whoever he was, he left you know, a good impression that
Mhm.
I can build on. And that's very helpful. And I'm glad your children, enjoy helping you out. My children always did too. We had a family business and they love that. Children love that stuff. So.
Yeah. For about a month, one of them was saying that his dream job is boom operator. And then I actually had him hold a boom for
Right.
about 2 minutes and he was done.
Is that your oldest?
That was the youngest.
Oh, your youngest. Okay. Oh, it's well, you don't have to explain why you're busy being a mom with a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, you said,
Uh-huh.
and they're so active, I'm sure, and
Yeah.
engaged, and it's busy. It's a busy life.
Yeah.
For everybody, but then I agree with you that I try to find ways to make all the things I have to do more efficient so that I can have time to do what I want to do, which is more Urantia work, obviously.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's fun. That's neat.
Mhm.
So for me, the greatest experience of all is when, after all my labor, someone says to me, wow, that was really good. I really enjoyed. I got something out of that.
Mhm.
I got an insight that, made me think. Have you had that? Have you had people sharing? Oh, look, there's Pato. Hi, Pato.
Pato.
Good
Hi.
to see you.
Hi, Paula. Hi, Alice.
Hi. So we were just talking about Alice's project, Urantia Life Lessons, and her prayer project, which the Second Miler Fund also helped fund, and
Oh, nice.
new equipment, so she can do things, better. And which is what we all want to do. We want to make a good impression, as we were saying. But have you gotten any of those people who have said, wow, Alice, thank you for doing this. This really was what I needed to hear today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten that from longtime readers and I've gotten that from new readers as
Wow.
well. Mhm.
See, that's
It really makes it really just feels good for me and reinforces for me that it is a worthy thing to be doing, because it does take so much time, and it lets me know that I'm spending my time in a quality way.
wow. That's the reward, I think, right there. And
Yeah.
I know Pato is no stranger to that, because, and really, that's ministry, right? That is ministry. When you can, it's like Jesus said, you wouldn't stand by and let a fellow drown in water.
Exactly.
How much more would you be interested in helping him if he's drowning in darkness? And spreading some light around to give his heart hope, or help him through the day, or help him solve a complex problem that he's having, or an issue he's grappling with. And that's ministry. That is supremely satisfying,
Yes.
and so, Pato, I know you also received a Second Miler grant
Yes.
from the fellowship for your
Yeah.
Urantia Artisans site, which is a very exciting site, and I was
Very
so
exciting.
delighted to see that, and so actually delighted that both of you applied for a grant, and watched the process go through with Brent St. Denny, and he does such a great job with all of that. But I have to tell you a story, Pato, and it's something I don't think I've ever told you. But years ago, my daughter Jean, and Alice and I have been talking about our children a little bit. My oldest, who was one when I found the book, and she's never had any other concept of God except the Urantia book concept of God. And she is a believer. She may not sit down and read that whole book, but she's a true believer
Yes.
in the revelation. And she was working at Red Rocks when she was a teenager. She was selling Subway sandwiches to the people on the, sitting and listening to concerts. And she attended many concerts that way, got to hear the concerts and selling sandwiches. And one night she came home. She was about 17, I guess. She was absolutely thrilled. So to give you some context, she's 46 now. She said, "Mom, I was at reggae on the rocks tonight." And her boss just so happened to be another Urantia book reader by the name of Jack Roberto. And he was the one that coordinated all the sandwich sellers. And they had established this fact, and they were both delighted that they both, knew about the Urantia book and believed in it. And at some point during the conference, or during the concert, someone said, "This one is for Michael of Nevadon." and this is for the creative mother spirit. And Jean said her head just popped, and she went running as fast as she can to find her boss, Jack Roberto, and say, "Jack, did you hear that? Did you hear that? One of the artists is a reader, a believer. Can you believe it?" And they were both elated. They were elated. She couldn't wait to tell me about it. And so we went through everybody that was on that stage that night, trying to figure out, because she didn't know who said it.
Who did it? Yeah.
But now we know. Now I know it was you who said it, because you were playing Reggae on the Rocks. And I'm telling you, that was such a thrill for her, and what a delight to me. And I didn't figure it out. I didn't put it together until a couple of years later, when Mary Eben told me that Matthew Block called her and I was explaining about this wonderful reggae artist who's been in contact with the fellowship office.
Yeah.
And Matthew was working there at the time. And told us it was Pato Banton. And then the two of us put it together that you're the one that did that. And you do. I've been to so many of your concerts, and you do that openly. And you get people to hold hands and hug each other. And your ministry is just very precious. It's very meaningful, because music is your medium.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. I think you understand that better than anyone. Maybe Christina. And your beautiful partner. And I saluted Alice's partner. I want to salute your partner, because life is, when you're doing your rancher work, life is so much easier when you have a supportive, loving partner, right?
That's right.
So,
big time.
So now Alice is a second generation reader, but you discovered the book on your own, and you want to just tell us a little bit about your discovery, and then we'll have to talk about your Urantian artist.
Well, basically, I grew up helping my stepdad with his sound system. He was a Jamaican DJ, and my mom met him after our family had a big, violent split up. My mom ran away and met him, and then she reunited her 5 children together. In a new city, she moved from London to Birmingham. So after 2 years of being separated from my mom, when I met her again, she was with this new guy from Jamaica, and he was a DJ, and he had this big sound system. His speakers were like the size of double closets, double wardrobes. And his sound system was called V-Rocket High Power. And our house, which was a 3-family house that was being rented by 3 families, it became the party house for the community, because that's where he lived and that's where he played his music every night. And I was a security guard at the age of 8. So I was listening and helping him out with his illegal late night parties. And I was listening to imported music from Jamaica. And by the time I was 11 or 12 was just when reggae music started to be created by Bob Marley and Toots and the Maytals and all of Jimmy Cliff. And I started to listen to this music, and all through my childhood, I'd never had a religious experience. No one ever taught me. I started skipping school from the age of 5.5, 6. I lived a very, very rough life. And from the age of 8 to 12, I was involved in the criminal afterlife. I saw everything that a child is not supposed to see by the time I was 10. So anyway, when the music started to change and they started to sing about the Almighty and the Ancients of Days and Jah, Rastafari and God, I started to go, wow, I want to learn more about the Almighty. I want to learn more about God. And so I started to embrace the Rastafari culture and belief, and it led me to the Bible. It led me to Jesus Christ. And then once I had studied the Bible, I had questions that none of the preachers in my local churches could answer. So I went and I went on a 15-year religious search. As I became an artist in my own right, I continued searching. I never stopped searching. And then when I found Melchizedek in the Bible, in Hebrews chapter 7, I was excited to go and find Melchizedek. And that was the search that led me to the Urantia book. When I opened the pages, I saw Melchizedek as one of the authors after 15 years. And so, that led me to the Urantia book. And I was convinced from the first moment I opened the book, I knew that this book was from another world, that the authors were not human. And I never looked back. And it's been a rocky road because as a reggae artist, you're either a Rasta or a Christian, Right. So for a reggae artist to be promoting the Urantia book and Christ Michael and the concentric circles is very alien to the reggae community. So, at some points in my life, it's made life a bit more difficult than it could have been, but it's been a blessing to feel as though I'm on the front of a wave of a new revelation to humanity and able to share it with so many people through my music, because I have fans who love my music, and I've been planting the seeds of the Urantia book in my music now for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And they're like, wow, where did you get that information from? And life is a miracle, and, destination paradise and new day dawning. And so it's always intrigued my fans that when I was a Bible reader, I used to share everything I found in the Bible. And when I became a Urantian, I shared everything I found in the Urantia book openly, even with heavy criticism sometimes. I just let it pass me by and just keep, sharing what I share. And, for me now that the Urantia book has grown, because even though it's grown slowly, it has definitely grown. And whereas years ago, I could have only found a handful of Urantia musicians who were open enough to admit that they read the book, there's Urantians around the world now playing the music, and even if they don't sing about it, they mention it in their interviews. So this is what really inspired me to look at the Urantia artisans, as well as Christina Seaborn and her crew that have created Urantia artisans on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Going into that arena and saying, wow, there's so many of us here, but what are we actively doing together? What can we do together? And, the Urantia book says, I can't remember the exact quote, you could probably correct me, Paula, but it says religionists will get together based on ideals to actually come together and do something, not just be Urantians and study, but let's do something that is life-changing globally. So I thought, how can I put this together? So we decided, when I heard about the Second Miler grant, I was like, all right, now if I can get this grant, I can hire a web designer and just put my ideas on him and let him, go for it and feel rewarded. For me, the reward is to actually create a beautiful site of sharing the revelation. And what was very beautiful as well was my web designer is not openly religious or spiritual. Mm. But as he started reading everybody's reflections of the Urantia book and what inspired them to do their art, he fell in love with the Urantia book, and he started reading the Urantia book and looking at the different aspects, because in the site, we've got highlights from the different artists, We've got so many different Urantia artists who shared their reflections on some of them, how they found the book, what the book has done to enhance their life. You know, we have a page about the Urantia community. You know, look at all these beautiful faces.
I know. I love it.
You know, our community is so diverse. You know, there's every race and culture in our Urantia artisans community.
There's
You
your
know,
beautiful wife.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, there's Carlos Santana.
Carlos,
You know,
yeah.
there's so many people there, you know, and some were famous artists, you know, who just kind of discreetly shared the book, you know. So it's a blessing, you know. It's really is a blessing. And then we've got on the page we've got a pastor, a Catholic pastor who's actually talking about finding the Urantia book and how he's trying to integrate it into his sermons, you know. And he says very clearly the Urantia book is not for everybody, you know. It's a highly intellectual book that takes discipline and you know, research, you know, true study. But he says you can take the gems from it and simplify them and share them with the world, and that is more important than anything, you know.
Well, that's what you two have in common. Both you
Yeah.
and Alice are doing that. That's exactly what you're doing.
So, you know, my team, you know, and the Urantia artisans really want to say thank you to the fellowship for this initiative. You know, Inspiration from Revelation is such a beautiful initiative, you know. And, you know, we only started out saying we was just going to do about 10 artists, you know, because it's so labor intensive to track people down, get their information, get their photos. Some of the artists don't even take photos of themselves. You know, they just do their art and they're not concerned about self-image or anything. So you have to kind of encourage them. Once you find them, can you please take a few photos of yourself and dig some photos up, you know, or whatever. And so what's been good is we now have a global network of artists who can contact each other, whether it's for album cover designs, whether it's to record a song together, whether it's a literary artist to write something up for us, you know. And the network is working. We are actually communicating with each other worldwide, globally now. The Urantia Association International is having a 24-hour Urantia-thon in August, and they've actually approached me and asked me if we could have it as a Urantia Artisans 24-hour Urantia-thon.
Wonderful.
So imagine, it's just so beautiful that we have a database now of Urantia artists that we can send one email and say, hey guys, would you like to be a part of a 24-hour Urantia-thon, you know, featuring Urantia artisans? And there's nearly 40 of us now. So we really need 2 days, you know. You know, but we had enough, and we had enough that within 2 days or 48 hours, the list of 24 artists was filled.
Wow.
You know, just by sending out an email. And when I went back to the Urantia Association and said, hey guys, here's the schedule, they're like, no way. We was expecting like 4 weeks, you know, for you to come back in 4 weeks. I'm like, no, everybody's excited. Everybody's, you know, honored to make a contribution, you know, of their work and their talent, you know, on a world stage. So it's just amazing, you know, it's just amazing. And I can see that when the pandemic opens up, that we can really simply now, when we're having our conferences, you know, just connect with the Urantia artisans and say, hey guys, you want to come together and put on a showcase for our community, you know, and it's going to be beautiful, you know.
It's going to feel so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, and so we have unity, musical unity, artistic unity in our community. And, you know, it really doesn't matter about, you know, background or affiliations. It's really about the love that we can share and the art that we can share. And, you know, one of the things I celebrate every day, which is also on the Urantia Artisans, is our page called Unity in the Urantia Community. You know, because we went through our era of like division and arguments and tensions. And it really seems as though we've all come out on the other side, more considerate of each other, more loving, more understanding, with more of a desire to be unified, and for me, it's just a happy community. It's really, really shifted. And I can see now that more and more of us have a desire to not be in a closet with the book, because for a long time, people were really hesitant about being called a cult or being called a cult member. But I think that the Urantia book is no longer just a cult or a small group of religionists. There's over 1 million recognized readers now worldwide, and so we are becoming a part of culture, which is a nice place to be. The word Urantia is no longer a scary word, because we have done over 70 years of proving that we haven't had any mass suicides or anyone drinking the Kool-Aid, or there's no so-called religious leader for the Urantia movement. We're just a book club of spiritual people who love this revelation and want to see the world a better place. So, on my Facebook pages, I have a fan page with over 40,000 people. In the early days when I used to mention the book, I used to get crucified. But, the other day I posted some Urantia quotes and some people with the book in their hands, and I had over 300 likes. And people were sharing the comments, and it's like, oh my God, I've lived to see this day.
Isn't that great?
It's so beautiful, and all of the criticisms are so minor now, and so irrelevant that it's like, if you want to criticize the book, read it, please read it, and then come back to me, and then we can have an intelligent conversation about your true criticisms. But most people who are skeptical that start reading that book, they fall in love with the book. Even if they can't understand it totally, they fall in love with the poetry of the writings, and the beauty that oozes, from the paragraphs and the sentences. So I think we're on what they call a winner-winner chicken dinner. We're on a winner-winner train, that is allowing, and especially now with the UFO revelations, we don't seem so out there and strange anymore. Now it's cool to believe in extraterrestrial life and life on other planets, so it's a good time to be alive, and I'm really grateful for the blessings I receive from my Urantia community. And Paula, I love you so much. You have been a solid foundation for so many years. I just have to really, really just honor you and respect you and say thank you for all of the work you've done behind closed doors. We love you so much.
Oh, thank you, Pato. I love you too. And you, Alice, it's such an honor to be here to serve this movement and to watch it grow the way I have watched it grow, to come from a place where nobody did anything and everybody was afraid for one reason or another, to where they are now, where everybody's thinking, what could I do? How can I, get out there and share my creative gifts? And they're all Urantia book readers are very altruistic. And I've often wondered, did the book make us that way, or were we that way to begin with, and that's why we found the book? Most Urantians do not engage in occupations that make them well.
That's true.
Service-oriented workers. They work in the service industry, helping people. They're, nurses and teachers and counselors and therapists. And, you just see that across the board almost with Urantia book readers. And so every once in a while, we have somebody like you or like Carlos Santana who has the courage to say, yeah, I'm an international reggae star, but I love this book. This book changed my life. And, I was going to say it's kind of neat because reggae music does lend itself to spirituality. So you just have a little bit more of to share than maybe other artists would have. And I wanted to tell Alice, isn't it cool, Alice? He started out helping his stepfather. And look where he went. And she was telling us earlier that her youngest son wants to be a boom operator because he helps her with her podcast, and
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
life
Yeah,
lessons.
so if the framing ever seems a little bit off on the videos, that's the kids. But they're getting better.
Awesome.
So you never know what they're going to do when they get going with it, and where that's going to lead them to such a beautiful place. So tell us, Pato, I know you're also doing you're doing Urantia artisans, but you're also your second miler grant is so you can get out and tour again, which is
Yes.
so exciting to me, because I know that this pandemic probably hit people like you harder than anyone else, especially performers, because that's your life. That's what you do. You get out there on the stage and you pour out all of that energy and love, and anybody in the audience can feel it, and it's so powerful, and you haven't been able to do that. And so your new project is you want to do a tour, right?
Yes.
And make it free for families?
Yes.
Am I saying it right?
You are saying it right. It's called the Good News, Peace and Love Tour.
Ah,
2021 West Coast Tour. We're going from San Diego all the way up the West Coast, all the way to Washington, to Port Angeles at the top of the country, and then making our way back down. We're doing about 22 cities, and we're doing mostly free outdoor concerts for the public. It starts July 1st, but we've already done about 5 free concerts in the Southern California area already. And we're doing a big Juneteenth celebration at the Diamond Baseball Stadium. And we're working in partnership with the NAACP, the City of Lake Elsinore City Council, the Lord Mayor, the Chamber of Commerce, the local ministers, Stand Up for Justice, and the Diamond Baseball Stadium. It's a huge partnership to put on a free concert to celebrate Juneteenth, which was the emancipation of slaves.
right.
And then straight after that, we head on the road to do these free shows. And what's beautiful is that when the pandemic hit, for 1 month straight, I did an online Zoom early morning session for my friends, fans, and spiritual family. And it was called Circle of Support, because some people were isolated and they were getting depressed. Some of them had lost their jobs. Some of them couldn't go out because of health restrictions. And some of them couldn't see their family anymore, especially the elder members. So we created this online Zoom every morning, and it's called Circle of Support. And we had all these people come in just sharing, what they were going through and their questions. And we would talk about the pandemic. We talk about the COVID, the what's real and what's not real. We talk about health issues, how to protect your immune system. We pray together, and we talk about ways of staying socially active even when you're in a pandemic. And so a lot of these people, once everything's opening up again, they all said to me, Pato, when are you coming back to our city? So we said, all right, we're going to come to your city and we're going to give you a free show that's family friendly, so you can bring your friends and family and kids. The idea also behind the tour is to remind people to spread the good news, and remind people that we're all God's children, brothers and sisters, and that faith in this good news is our eternal salvation. And to remind everybody that, yes, we have differences of politics, we have different issues about race, we have different religious issues, not issues, ideologies. We have different ideas around sexuality. We're so diverse in our thinking, but what unites us is the love of God. What unites us is that we're spiritually family. And based on that premise, everything else should come second. Everything else is secondary. So we're going to also have a Urantia booth at all the concerts with the Urantia books, some leaflets and information, directing people to the different Urantia sites, and the foundation, the UAI, the fellowship, and the Urantia artisans now. Just a list of different places they can go and learn more about the Urantia book and read the Urantia book online. And then we're going to have prayer circles after the shows as well. And where there's water, there will be baptisms for the people that want to be baptized. Because I'm already getting requests from people saying, will you baptize us when you come to our city? Will you baptize my children when you come to my city? So whether it's the ocean, a hotel, jacuzzi, or swimming pool, wherever it is, we're going to be having baptisms and christenings and celebrations and marriages. People are asking me to marry them on this tour.
Oh, yay.
So some of the stops on the tour are actually for weddings.
Sure.
And then we do a free concert for the community.
Well, I think that there's a lot of talk about the big lie, and I think the biggest lie that's ever been perpetrated on humanity is the lie that God is mad at us, and that God is angry and vengeful and wrathful, and never was there a worse, more debilitating lie.
Yes.
To humankind, because God is our, he's our great love, our best friend, the one person's in our corner, the one person that's going to pick us up and dust us off and say, keep going, kid, you can do this, and all humanity needs that friend. We've all found that friend, right? We've found that friend, and all humanity needs that friend. And that's what floats my boat. And I know that's what floats both of your boats. And so that's a good thing. I know that there's, we're running a little bit short of time. So I just want to say that I know that these undertakings take a lot more than just what the little second miler grant can offer. You're going to have to raise more funds to be able to do all these free concerts. And Alice, I know you want to raise more money too, so you can keep going with your ministry, and it's so important. So maybe you both can tell us where we can go and make a donation if we want to support your work.
Go on, Alice.
Oh, golly, I don't have anything set up in such a formal manner.
Well, we'll have to fix that for you.
If you'd like to make a donation, I'd say reach out to the fellowship, and they know how to contact me. Okay,
great, perfect. And also just go watch the videos and like them and share them with your friends, because that's what they're for, and they will grow. And if they grow, then good things will happen from that. And Pato, I know you have a way to donate money, right, to your
yes,
your tour.
Well, actually, regarding the tour we're going to do, we were actually we've been raising funds for a few months now, and we were only short a little bit, and the money that the fellowship provided was the exact amount that covered the final fundraising efforts for what we wanted to do. So as far as the tour is concerned, we are good. But if anyone wants to continue to support our outreach ministry, because my next dream is to go to the Antarctica.
Okay.
I want to go and play some UB books down in Antarctica. And then after Antarctica, I want to do a tour of Africa again.
Beautiful.
We've just made contact with some Urantians in South Africa and Uganda. I have an orphanage in Uganda, and they've started reading the Urantia book there too. I also heard that the fellowship has sent some books down to Nigeria as well.
Quite a few, actually.
Quite a few. So we're in touch with the Nigerians as well.
Yeah.
And Sierra Leone. So that's some of the future stuff we want to do. We're also about to get some land to create a worship center to the Heavenly Father.
Great.
Which is called Urantia. If anyone wants to see that, they can go to urantia.us.us and look at that new exciting project we're working on. They can also go to urantiaartisans.com if they want to donate to the fellowship. Has a donate button there, and also urantia.org has a donation button there which they can contribute to.
So, and if we want to come to a concert, like the one you were saying you're doing with the Chamber of Commerce, is that in LA?
That's in Lake Elsinore.
Lake Elsinore, your home.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So
great.
In our home city. So we're really planting seeds in this city. And my new website is official Pato Banton. If anybody's looking for my tour dates, patobanton.com got stolen by someone in England. They hijacked my website. So we moved on with official Pato Banton. So
Yay. That's
so
official.
I just want to say thank you to everyone in the Urantia movement that has supported us. And Alice, you and Chris are awesome. I love you guys so much too. So thank you for everything you're doing.
We are so blessed, and I feel so blessed to have been here with you guys today. It was such an honor. Thank you so much for your ministry. Keep going. Just know I'm here to support whatever I can do. I'm
Thank
happy
you,
to help.
brother.
You're welcome.
You
Thank you.
guys are doing a great job. Really, really, really.
Thank you.
Exciting times.
Exciting times. Let's keep going, as David always says, David Cantor. Let's keep going.
This one's for Michael of Never Done.
Yeah, the creative mother spirit.
That's our mother spirit.
Love you guys.
Love you too.